Today I'm deconstructing a little bit of the integrated strength work. I tend to do whole entire 3-hour workshops on this, so 5 or 6 minutes isn't quite going to do it justice, but to give you a little insight, we have the movement world out there beyond the yoga world, so the people that are looking now more at natural movement, people like Ido Portal, the MoveNat people, Fighting Monkeys, Cameron Shane, all people that are doing very, very respectable work. And they're working more with the animal locomotion, how we look at ourselves as dynamic creatures with articulating joints. And often people say, well, why would I want to move like an animal in my yoga practice? Tell me why does that make sense? And so for me, it's about looking at the asana practice as something that allows us to use the body to find a deeper connection, to find a somatic practice. And if I want to explore movement, I don't just want to be able to have, we're not necessarily looking for flexibility, we're looking for range of motion, but more importantly, I also want to have some strength. And I want that strength to be integrated. So I do want part of my asana practice to be something that supports my movement in the rest of the world, so that when my body's balanced, my mind can also follow in that balance. And one of the things that we notice with holding yoga poses that are perceived strengtheners is that we tend to tense, we tend to get grippy, and we tend to isolate, same as old school strength training, just isolate one muscle and then it'll get stronger. And we already know that's not necessarily true. The body works much better in integration because we're always moving as a whole unit. So the more I can be informed about that, the more my body will move as a whole unit with strength in everything I do, from like picking up something off the floor to, moving a chair. So it becomes helpful double fold. And it also just gives us a little bit more insight to the body and how it works. So one of my favorite exercises is just starting from cat and cow, shifting weight. We've already deconstructed cat and cow, so I know my elbows don't want to lock out, my wrists don't want to lock out. I want to keep that pliability. Tucking the toes under, so I'm using the articulation of the toes and the ankles, and then lifting the knees just at a hovering, a couple centimeters off the floor, and shifting weight here just through the legs. And as I start to pad through the feet, what happens is the abdominal muscles, the transverse abdominis, the rectus abdominis, the obliques, everything starts to fire up automatically to support that action. Instead of me getting into a position and thinking, okay, now engage your transverse abdominis, engage your obliques, engage your rectus abdominis. I don't have to think those things. By keeping that pliability and that movement, it happens automatically. So it's the same thing with the upper body. I'm going to keep my knees on the floor to begin with, and I just start shifting right hand to left hand. Now remember, just like the standing poses, I'm not swaying from right to left. I'm literally picking up one hand and then the other. And I'm letting the shoulder move as well. So you think about your cat or a tiger or any quadruped out in nature. They don't isolate. They don't sort of move like this, right? Everything moves. It's connected to the spine. They don't even think about it. So when I integrate that together to introduce the idea of the tiger action, the knees come off the floor, and then I think opposition. First of all, I want to make sure everything's springy, right? Elbows, wrists, shoulders, hips, all of the joints are working together. And if they're working together, I've got so much more support because it activates everything, front, side, and back, what I call universal core integrated strength. So when I start to work on my tigers, opposition, right hand, left foot, left hand, right foot comes off. And again, it's not a swaying action. It's not a big change of weight. It's an integrating from deep inside. Every once in a while, make sure your head and your neck don't get locked up, that you're not locking the arm that stays on the floor. So when you play around with that tiger action, it only takes like 30 seconds before you realize how much everything has worked. It goes beyond the idea of like, let's do sit-ups or let's do crunches or let's isolate side body strength or back body strength. Everything has to integrate together to make that action, because quadrupeds do it automatically, and when we learn how to crawl, we do it automatically. And the crawling stage is so important for our developmental stage. And we quite often crawl as soon as we get standing. We lose the desire to crawl because we want to stand and run and catch up with everybody else. So when we bring that back into the asana practice, again, it's something that can be useful to integrate strength and feel into the body instead of giving it a list of muscles to activate to support a movement. All we have to do is get the movement first. Everything else works. So it becomes something we don't have to process mentally, which helps us when we're trying to do an embodied practice about feeling and sensing. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just write me a message below. Thank you.